here from Off the Beaten Path, and on our way to our first real adventure with the 76. Still a long way from set up properly, but you know, that didn't stop us heading off on this trip. So it's Saturday morning, just after 7 a.m. I'm just south of Oyen, heading to the big desert, catching up with Luca and his mate. Yeah, this car's still not set up, so still no winch, still running the road bias, all terrains. Just got the gear sort of crammed in the back there. There's the swag. Yeah, just grabbed the Bushman fridge out of the Padge. The Padge is still with the mechanic, getting the rear, waiting for a rear CV to be replaced before I put it up for sale. Wasn't broken, but it was making a noise, so I just want the car to be right when I sell it. Anyway, so yeah, the guys are camped down here somewhere near a lake. Starting to get a bit of light. Weather's not looking fantastic, but yeah, anyway, looking for them, and it's we're doing the big desert, and then we're probably doing a section of the border track. So have got a big trip planned for later in the year. We're going to do the entire Vic SA border. That's going to be pretty epic, probably in October. So this will be a little bit of border track revenge for the Pajero for last year. So I was nearly going to bring the Padge, but I just don't want to break anything else on it when I'm getting ready to put it up for sale, and I've just spent money getting it fixed. So anyway, hopefully nothing gets broken on the 76 on this trip. Everybody keeps telling me how reliable the Toyota drivetrain is. So sand driving, road bias, all terrains, no winch, no recovery gear. Going with people at least. So anyway, let's see how it pans out, guys.
Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, and here we are on another trip, this time up in northwest Victoria. Today's trip really starts here at Walpop Lake, where I meet up with Luca and Adam. From there we head on the made roads up to Walpop, where I need to refuel, having just arrived and caught up with the guys. And from there we head on the Meridian Access Road north on the Meridian Road up towards the Murry Sunset National Park, taking a right turn, then a left turn. So we're heading north there on Walker Road, and then we take a left on One Tree Plain Track. Just pull back to the larger view, following that along for a fair while before turning left again onto the Last Hope track, and then we head down into Mopoke Hut, which is a hut and campground. Check that out for a bit of a coffee stop there before retracing our steps. Now it looks on this map like that track continues. That continuation was actually closed, and some other maps show some different tracks connecting in here, but the simple fact is that that wasn't the case for us. So we headed back and then continued on the track of Last Hope. It continued heading west there. Then we turned north onto Underbull track, a couple of kilometres along that before turning left and heading on Feeney's track, almost due west towards the border, following that blue line there. Good several Ks. Most of that was pretty good driving. And today's video actually ends. We were going to have our lunch stop here. This is the Feeney's campground on Feeney's track. It just wasn't a great place to stop for lunch, so we decided to push on to the border before having lunch. But this is where today's video ends. Pretty exciting trip. Water everywhere, crazy mud, lots of fun in the 76. So without any further ado, guys, let's get into it. So here we are at the campsite that Luca and Adam had at Walpop Lake. Cracking little spot. I managed to find them, which was pretty amazing considering I had no idea where I was heading to.
And yeah, almost sounds like the punchline to a joke, doesn't it? Toyota and two Nissans head out into the desert one day. Well, that's what we're doing today. So we're headed off from Walpup Lake and heading back via the public roads, and we're going to head back into Walpup to fuel up because I just finished travelling over from Albury and was getting low on fuel. The guys had refueled the night before, so didn't need to fuel up, but that did mean they knew exactly where I could get some fuel from at Walpup. So headed there to fuel up before heading north into the Murry Sunset National Park. As you can see, a little bit of water around. They had some light rain last night. Not a substantial amount of rain, but some. And I was soon to find out exactly what that was going to mean for the national park. So I've got Adam in front of me in his GU Patrol and Luca behind in his GU Patrol. Given that I'm running the most road biased tyres out of everybody, have no diff locks and no recovery gear, that seemed to be the most sensible place for me to be in the convoy. That way I could get recovered forwards or backwards as required. So yeah, we called into the general store, then headed northeast onto the Meridian Link Road, which you just saw there, and now we're onto the Meridian Road northbound. That's quite a long straight run, mostly a sand-based road, generally in pretty good condition. Runs north for several kilometres, getting up to the southern border of the Murry Sunset National Park. A few little puddles around here, but nothing of any consequence, and we did spend our time here still in pretty much 4 high, and I hadn't locked the, sorry, not even 4 high, what do I think I'm driving, the Pajero? 2 high, hadn't locked the hubs in yet. Can't go into 4-wheel drive in this thing without locking the hubs in. Anyway, I'll get used to that. So yeah, still in 2-wheel drive here at this point, a little bit bumpy there as you just saw. And you certainly feel those sort of things a lot more in the 76 with the solid axles and the leaf spring in the rear, coils in the front. But generally on this section we could maintain a pretty good speed. We did have a brief stop here at the end of the Meridian Road just to air down and lock in the hubs because, yeah, that's the thing now. So I think the other guys might have auto-locking hubs on their GUs, but I think they still lock them in manually because I think that's better. I have no idea. Mine on the 76, they're the ones that you turn by hand and lock them in. And if you don't do that, you can move the lever into 4-wheel drive, but you're not in 4-wheel drive. So heading east to get across to Walker Road. Again, this is just a taste of what was to come. A bit of water sitting on the track, a few decently wet spots like this. Starting to think, you can see the vehicle there moving, like literally fishtailing there. A little bit of a taste of, okay, I'm going to have to pay attention here to my speed and how I approach these kind of obstacles, because clearly I don't have a lot of traction with these road biased tyres that I'm running. Was debating going to the right, but opted to follow Adam's line and stick to the left here. Again, you can see the whole car sort of fishtailing a little bit there. Managed to hold on to the control and slow it up for this section so we didn't have that issue again. And then turned left and we're heading north now on Walker Road, getting into the Murry Sunset National Park proper. As you can see, like, there's some decent amounts of water here sitting around in different places, and thanks Luca for passing on the footage. Got some great footage on this trip thanks to Luca and Adam both sharing their footage. So this is shot from Luca's car watching the 76 in front. Did get a lot of water on the case for the GoPro, which was a bit of an issue, but still ended up with plenty of footage to edit. Track condition here was generally firm, generally dry, except for the wet spots. As you can see there up ahead,
Gives you a fair indication of what we're looking at. And again, a little bit of footage there from Luca showing the 76 pushing through. I have to say, plenty of power on tap. The gearing's well suited to delivering the power on the 76. And here we are getting further north into a much more sandy area. The track's a little softer here. You can see the car sort of almost following those ruts as we're still heading north. Now, ironically, this is an area that I've never been to before, and I say ironically because I actually grew up in Western Victoria, not that far from here, and had relatives up in the Wimmera region that we used to visit quite regularly. But this is my first trip ever into the Murry Sunset National Park. You don't see a lot of really tall trees here because it is a desert. They tend to be a little more stunted. And you do get sections like this where it certainly seemed a lot more green than you'd expect. It reminds me of the variety trip last year. And I think that's, again, just a function of the amount of rain that we've had this winter. A lot of these puddles we could actually drive around fairly well. Luca's opted for the line straight through the middle. And when you're driving a twin lock GU with mud terrains, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And one thing, having somebody in front of me for a change, I was getting I got a sort of a view of what was to come. You can see the water being thrown up by Adam's vehicle up ahead. Gives you an indication of just how much water is actually on this track. As we get into this open area, the whole track is pretty much just covered in water. And through here, it really was just a case of just keep the momentum up, don't brake, and just keep the speed steady and keep it moving. There's a phenomenal amount of water around over the track here. You can see the splash up ahead from Adam's vehicle, as well as mine from this camera at the back here on Luca's vehicle. Just unbelievable given we're driving through a desert here. Just unreal. This was not, I don't think any of us really expected this. I certainly didn't expect this. Far more water than I ever imagined we were going to see in the desert. Apologies for the blurry camera shot. As I said, with that much water being thrown around, it was kind of inevitable. And here you can see the track's again much drier. The scenery was quite interesting, and the track just kept changing. You'd move from this softer sand to some harder packed stuff, to a wet section, to a little rocky gravelly section. Some sections would have humps and corrugations and others wouldn't. So certainly the kind of driving that you really did need to pay attention to what you were doing. You weren't sort of going to be drifting off just admiring the view and not paying too much attention. As you can see, the track itself is not a super wide track at all, so you didn't have a lot of room to move around on the track. You're pretty much going to stick to the center lines and follow the track. And again, a little bit of full warning there from Adam's vehicle that there's another decently wet spot coming up ahead here. Back under control and push through. Just not the kind of terrain or challenges I was really expecting to be facing. You expect to maybe get bogged in the desert due to soft sand. This particular section of the trip, that wasn't an issue. It was more the water and the mud. Now we're turning left here onto the Last Hope track, which has got us heading back west towards Mopoke Hut, which was going to be our first sort of stopping point for the day. And of course, it didn't really seem to matter where we went in this desert. There was water everywhere. Again, as I said earlier, some sections like this, it was to the side of the track and you could sort of stay out of it by staying in the middle of the track, but then other times, as you saw, it's everywhere all over the track and there was nowhere you could go. And you can see see how soft that is there. The 76 is moving around a fair bit. There's a little bit point and shoot here, kind of just try and get the vehicle going in a generally forwards direction. So if it looks like I'm driving all over the road, I kind of am, because I didn't have a lot of control over exactly where the vehicle was going in some of those situations. Sometimes like this, there might have been a bit of water over the road, but it was a nice firm base underneath. There really wasn't any depth to it, and you just push on through. While we won't be going through this exact part of the Murry Sunset National Park on our desert trip later in the year, we will be skirting the edge of it, and I'll just be interested to see if closer to summer how different the conditions might be. Again, you can see how deep some of those ruts are that are forming behind the wheels. There really were some quite soft sections and just endless water in the desert. Basically, my thinking was, if I've seen Adam go through and he's dug some ruts going through, I'd try and stay out of those so I didn't dig them deeper, and forge my own path a little bit. I don't know if that's the right course of action, but it seemed to work for me. Every time you think you've reached a section of track that's going to stay dry, you come around a corner and there's another mud hole, water puddle, what have you, just popping up out of nowhere. I don't know if there's springs under the track, or what causes the water to sit in these locations, or what the story is, but there was just certainly plenty of it. As you can see here, the terrain certainly changes. We're out of that sort of sandy country into more of a mallee scrub, mallee bush. Still a sandy base to the track, but actually got a bit of grass around as well now. And that's what I mean, the scenery did change markedly. I mean, this is just one of a number of tracks through the Murry Sunset National Park, and again, it was a nice change having somebody leading. You just saw Adam's car there hit that divot in the track. Usually I'm the one to find those, so it was nice being on a trip organised by somebody else where I'm just tagging along and following. and didn't have to try and worry about navigating and filming. All I had to do was follow the vehicle in front of me, and somebody else was having the fun of finding the obstacles on the track. So turning left here to Mopoke Hut, it's about 3.5 k's from this turn off down to the hut, not too far at all, and that was going to be our first stopping point. And yeah, nice twisty little track in here. Generally a pretty easy drive, but it wasn't too long before we did find ourselves a fairly boggy section. Now you can see Adam's bogged down there. I've basically stopped to make sure he got out, and then I've started and gone in, and now I'm stuck. So what mistake did I make? Momentum. Adam hit this at pace without pausing too much, and I think his momentum helped him carry through. I mean, obviously he's running mud terrains and I'm not, but I think the big mistake I made was coming to nearly a complete stop and not having any momentum going into this to help me through. And running those road bias all terrains just really couldn't get the traction that I was going to need to be able to get out of here. Forwards, backwards, I'm going nowhere. So just debating on, are we going to hook me up to Adam's car and try and pull me out forwards, or is it going to be better to pull me out backwards with Luca's vehicle that's behind? As you can see, not a super deep bog hole, just deep enough that I think I've diffed out in the ruts and didn't have the momentum to carry me through. You can see there the front wheel, it's about halfway up the wheel, so no water getting into the vehicle or anything like that. There's a view from Luca's car from behind. So yeah, we decided it was going to be a lot easier just to hook onto the rear. I did put my recovery hitch in place before heading on this trip, and unfortunately we needed to use it.
Okay, nice and gentle now, I'm coming back.
So it didn't take too much, a little bit of effort there from the GU, and they've just pulled me back out. Didn't have to move too far and I was right to drive. So yeah, pretty easy sort of snatch there.
Thanks, mate.
So I would have liked to have had another go, but when you've been stuck once, you don't want to be that guy that drives in and gets stuck again. And really, the vehicle's not set up for that kind of driving. So I did opt to take the chicken track around the side. But do you think Luca was going to do that? I don't think so.
Following me, or are you having a crack, Luca?
Come on, mate, it's a Nissan. No chance. I'm no chicken track for Nissans.
Yeah, I don't know if you had them both engaged, but yeah, Luca's GU is twin locked and made short work of that little bog hole, that's for sure. And Luca's comment about it being a Nissan there may have been inspired by a t-shirt I was wearing. I think it had something written on it like Nissan Recovery Crew or something. Yeah, let's just say that t-shirt had to disappear before the 76 was recovered. I think that was a condition on the recovery at that time. Fair enough. So once we'd solved that little dilemma, it was a pretty dry, pretty easy run through to the hut, and look, obviously there was a bypass track around that which I ultimately took, so even when it's wet, obviously it's a known wet spot on the track, and most people when it's wet drive around it. just see some glimpses there of the hut in the distance. It's a reasonably substantial structure, a fair bit more modern than the high country huts that we're used to seeing. Similar to the high country huts, it's here because of a history of grazing in the area, which, considering it's a sand desert, is pretty amazing. So there we are, lined up for our coffee break. 2 GUs and the 76 and Mopoke Hut. And you can see there on the location map
So
where we are, Mopoke Hut.
From Walpop down the bottom there, and come up the Meridian Road, and then around on the Last Hope track, and then down here into Mopoke Hut. It's a pretty modern looking fibro hut.
So yeah, it's got glass windows and internal lining, stove there, not operational
Bedroom
for
through
fire
here.
hazard reasons.
Couple of beds. Room with a view. That morning sun's going to wake you up because that's facing east. For those that don't need the comfort of a foam mattress. As you can sort of tell from the condition, it's been restored with support from the Mildura Four-Wheel Drive Club. And the stove is no longer operational. Bit of a collection of bottles there. History of grazing in the Murry Sunset National Park. Clearly not in the big high country anymore. Regular toilet service history. 2 toilet roll dispensers, both with paper on them. So well done, Mopoke. Quite a few camping spots here at Mopoke. I don't know how you say it. But yeah, it's a fairly open campground. It's the hut and the vehicles down there, and a number of little camp spots, not overly big, reasonably level, with campfire rings in place, so pretty good.
So yeah, it was a great little stop there for coffee and a bit of an explore, and learn that you know, despite being a desert, there is a history of grazing here, much like the high country, and not a bad camping spot there with a long drop toilet that is pretty well serviced and maintained. And you don't often find long drops in the Vic High Country that have actually got toilet paper in them. You definitely usually need to make sure that you bring your own, but yeah, no, well provisioned for toilet paper and regularly re-provisioned seemingly. So I don't know if it's they're servicing them more regularly or there's just not the volume, probably not the volume of visitors. So as you just saw there, we took the track back from Mopoke back to the Last Hope track, and once again into a pretty soft, wet, muddy section of track almost instantly. Now, I was not about to make the same mistake here that I made previously on the way through to the hut. So definitely backing up to get myself a little bit of momentum here, so that we didn't need to do another recovery on the 76. Didn't want this trip to be all about, hey, this is the trip where all we did was pull your 76 out of the mud. So a little bit of momentum and straight through. Not a lot of traction.
There it is.
See Luca there
Luca.
with his twin locked GU has taken that at a much more sedate pace. I was a little bit once bitten twice shy, having just gotten stuck, and as you can see, bit of mud, dirt on the lens. So sorry for that, guys. It's not the clearest shot, but we'll move to another clip fairly short. You can get the idea there of just how much water there was sitting either side of the track. Now I've just pulled up here because we've realised there's a heap of water and some mud just up around this corner, and I was just waiting for Adam to confirm that he actually got through, because this is insane. This is ridiculous. So yeah, some great footage from Luca, and Adam filmed this at the end as well. This was insane. This was crazy stuff. Like, look at this. Cars bouncing around, moving around all over the place, tuning. This is just get in, hang on, foot down, and try and go forwards. You can see the cars moving. Sorry for the resolution here. This was shot on Adam's phone with us coming towards him. And again, I'm just trying to sort of stay on the road. I'm not trying to go anywhere in particular here. I'm just trying to generally stay on the defined area of the road and try and get out of the water if I can. This was insane. Now that looked like Luca was pretty close to me. He wasn't that close. So this is footage from my GoPro approaching Adam. That was insane. And as you can see, Luca was not glued to my rear bumper as it sort of looked like in that forward-facing footage. That was an insane drive. Like, it was insane. None of us wanted to get stuck there. That was such a long, boggy, soft, wet section of track. No one wanted to get stuck there. So it was just commit. And there was nothing else to do but commit and just keep the power on. It was a lot of fun. Really impressed with how the 76 handled that. Again, considering I'm running effectively road tyres on this thing at the moment, like, you know, if I'd have known these were the conditions I was coming to, I possibly would not have come. But these road biased tyres actually perform pretty well considering the conditions. So, yep, and of course, before not too long, we're back in another sort of mud hole. These shorter ones are a little bit more manageable, fortunately. Does mean that the GoPro certainly got covered in more than its fair share of mud, that's for sure. Almost drifting the corner there. And what started off as a fairly grey day, you can even see through this footage, we ended up with some really nice blue skies and the weather really cleared up from the night before in the morning.
Alrighty, so we're still working our way through the Murry Sunset Desert National Park, one of the two. Really happy with how the 76 is going, to be honest. Look, these tyres are practically slicks when it comes to this kind of stuff. Running 25 psi front and rear. Probably could have gone a little lower given these are 16-inch rims instead of 18 like what I had on the Padge. I have been stuck once, and that did require the removal of my Nissan Recovery Vehicle t-shirt, and got the Off the Beaten Path t-shirt back on. A lot of fun today, and a really good test out for the vehicle. Like, I still haven't had a chance to fit many mods, anything fitted as cosmetic, so still running those road bias, all-terrains, stock suspension, no winch or recovery gear. So yeah, it's been a good opportunity to learn what it's like to drive this thing off-road, and if in doubt, apply more power seems to be the solution that works pretty well.
Yeah, we've had some crazy bog holes. I mean, it is winter. You know, this track is just hugely variable through this national park desert. You come around a corner and there's a massive big bog hole and you're in it sort of before you know it. Yeah, you know, here's one that's just popped up on us now, middle of the track. So, yeah, they just come out of nowhere. Nice when you can see them coming on a straight section like this. Yeah, look, there's another one. I just missed Adam drive that one. We'll hold our line, I think. Yep, another wet section here. Yeah, that happens a bit. So you're driving a little bit on faith some of the time, as you just saw there. That's what happens. But yeah, look, really happy with the 76. We're not far off the Vic SA border, and we're going to be heading down the border track, grabbing some lunch. So yeah, as you just heard, look, this was a really great shakedown trip for the 76. Threw a bit of everything at it. This sort of first half of the first day was a lot of soft, wet, boggy stuff with plenty of water, and very different for the later parts of the track. So we're just turning right here onto the Underbull track to head north. Which was just a short run before we, which I didn't have a lot of footage on clearly, before turning left and heading back on west on Feeney's track. Did get some footage here from the phone mounted inside the car because the GoPro was covered in mud and not really that suitable for filming. So kind of handy that I have the phone mounted on the dash anyway for controlling the GoPro and turning it on and off. Certainly ended up being helpful on this particular trip. And you can see one of the first sort of decent sized dunes up ahead there. It's really more of just a long steady hill than an actual normal dune. But you can see how it's changing from that dark brown soil sand to the whiter, more sandy sand. Sandy sand. There you go. All right, here we are pulling into Feeney's track camping area. Fairly open, unsheltered camp area. Looks like it's had a fair bit of vehicle traffic. And we did pull in here for just a quick stop. We thought about having some lunch here, but decided to have lunch further along the track. But this is where I will leave this video for today. As you can see, a bit of mud caked on.
Silver. Now it's kind of brown coloured. Yours is still pretty much white.
Your blinker wants a bit of fresh air, mate.
Yeah. Apparently no an issue with the 76. That's a feature.
No, that's mine's got that.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and come back and see the next installment of this epic trip through the Murry Sunset National Park.
Too much fun.